Good evening. So I yarn from the farm this evening. I have Laura Douglas joining me from Queenstown.
You better say Kingston. I get offended if you say Queenstown. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm in Southland District Council boundaries here, Laura.
Can you tell I haven't spent enough time in the South Island? It's on the bucket list.
Down here, it was pretty amazing.
It was on my bucket list for this year. We shall see about that, I think. But you run a business called Real Country.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll come on to letting you tell us a lot more about the exciting things you're running were running with Real Country and have plans for after lockdown. But can you just give us a little bit of background first about how you grew up and then the industries that you went into that very much started your journey towards what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So I had a pretty typical rural upbringing in northern Southland. On a sheep and deer farm down there. It was just that my dad growing up, it was either be a farmer or be a farmer. So dad really encouraged my brother and I to not get into farming. So both of us went to university, and I myself went down the corporate path after getting an MBA. My first role was as a financial analyst in the corporate finance division at Deloitte in Wellington. Quite a mouthful. Oh, wow. And I was young, just small town girl, got into the big city, and initially it was all really exciting. And I thought that that's what I wanted. And so, a few years later, after a few different jobs in a few different countries, I was at my desk in Christchurch. My last role was a project manager in a cyber analytical firm. And I drew a picture at my desk, and there was no intention. It was just me with a glass of whiskey initially. Clearly, it was Friday. And there's a video, there's a dog at my feet, there's a sick jet boat, an off-road truck in the driveway, a horse in the paddock by the house, and I'm just surrounded by mountains. And then I wrote at the bottom, Laura's life in 5 years. And without really realizing what I'd done, I'd just hit the nail on the head. I hadn't been happy for a long time, Laura, and I obviously was looking to become a bit more fulfilled. And if that's what I wanted, then it was get the hell out of the city, because I was never going to have that type of lifestyle there. So that really kicked things off for me. I've never been one to sit on my hands. So 3 months later, I quit my life, my job, my career, and moved down to Queenstown and had part-time work in tourism while I'm doing my side hustle with Real Country, trying to get it going. And initially it was 2 or 3 people at a time, taking them to a mai to teach them how to shoot guns, crack whips, like my granddad taught me. And from there, it now has grown quite a lot. Obviously, that growth has kind of stopped in the last month or so, but I was having busloads of tourists come in, and I would do I call it my more modern, real take on what a farm show should be for, groups of guests. We do private shooting tours. I do duck shooting workshops for ladies only. And I have a host of amazing fur babies, I call them, my orphaned and unwanted farm animals that I've taken in, and they're all very unique. So everything we do at the farm is all about giving them a real taste of what rural New Zealand is like. It's definitely not the prettiest setup. It's very, very Southland. And the biggest thing I'm most proud of was when I launched the Southern Girl Finishing School workshops in September last year. That's been something I've been passionate about since the beginning. In fact, the whole company was going to be called Southern Girl Experience, and it was going to be female-only workshops, because that's what I'm really passionate about. Until someone pointed out that Southern Girl Experience sounds like a strip club, and it was probably quite sexist, not allowing the boys to come in and do these farm workshops. So perhaps coronavirus has sort of pushed tourism aside for me for a while, and up the opportunity for me to expand on these farm workshops that I'm so passionate about.
Because It sounds from your workshops that actually you'd been branching a little bit into the educational side of things anyway, because you've got a lot of kids that come onto the farm and experience the different aspects of farm life, and you divide up your teaching into different subsets. Is that right? So that you can kind of teach in a specific way to suit the group that you've got coming through.
Yeah, and I don't have a background in teaching, but I think being, typical Southern hospitality, we can read people and we like to make people feel comfortable. So the reason I segregate the workshops into boys, girls, ladies, father, son, mother, daughter, is just so the group feel comfortable, because a lot of the activities that we do can be quite confrontational and intimidating. So you've got to remember, a lot of the people that come out to do these workshops haven't held a hammer before or worked with a horse or changed a tyre and have never seen a gun. To get them learning all these skills, they need to be comfortable. And, Southern people, rural people, we're very good at that. And so that then makes the teaching side of it a lot more easier, because they're comfortable in the environment.
And, it seems like initially when you look at the concept, it does seem such a tourist orientated idea, but actually getting kids onto the farm, that may be the only opportunity they've ever had to come out of a town and actually step onto a farm in New Zealand. And that may actually be the opportunity for them to be exposed for the first time to a potential career that they could do in the future. And you were saying you're working in a job at the moment that very much kind of has that mentality, that it can be a stepping stone for people to enter the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool. A lot of the parents that bring their kids to these workshops, at the end of it, will tell me, this is so cool, because when I was growing up, I used to go to my auntie or uncle or granddad's or, cousins' farm down the road. And I think a lot of the older generation, they probably did know someone that had a farm and would go there on school holidays. But, one generation down, our generation and below us, it's very unlikely now that if you're brought up in an urban environment, you're not going to have access to the farms like our prior generations did. And therefore, the whole host of skills that you get, like the responsibility of shutting a gate if you open it, because if you don't, then the stock get out onto the road and they could die, and that's really, really bad. Or the care, that is required to raise a baby lamb, and the responsibility that entails, and that, yes, you do have to go out in the freezing cold rain to feed it because that's what it needs. And this whole generation, if you don't have the ability to get involved in that from a young age, you then struggle to learn it later on. And, little things like a lot of the people that come to the workshops, the ladies that are older, they have never held a hammer before. They have never backed a trailer or done anything. And it's not because they don't want to. It's because they're now too worried that they're going to be terrible at it, and they don't have the confidence to even give it a go. Whereas farm kids, you come across a broken fence, you just grab some baling twine and you fix it up. There's no, I can't do this. It's, I'll give it a go and see what happens. And anything that I do with people it's all about passing on that mentality, because that's so important.
And giving it a go, you definitely incorporate into your farm shows as well, don't you? They're not your normal conventional seeing a sheepdog working as people from America or Europe might expect. You actually get people out testing electric fences, and you're training up a dog that anybody can work. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's the traditional sheep shearing, sheep mustering show, that's actually not very Kiwi anymore. And I don't think it's a reflection of what rural New Zealand is. And my farm shows, I don't have 200 people. The most I ever have at a time is 50. But I teach them how to communicate and work with horses. So I get volunteers out of the group, and I have an ex-race horse that I have converted to being a very responsive, lovely mare. And I have people that will actually start lunging her and get her to do these drills in front of 50 people at a time. Test an electric fence with a blade of grass. I hate getting shocks, and so that's definitely one people love learning. Cooking stock whips, and then just to show them how hard it actually is to round up sheep that aren't trained. None of my sheep are trained. I think that's boring as hell and not very real. I always get fresh hoggets in. Once I've successfully got them in, I give them a turn. So in groups of 5, I've got to try and get the hoggets in the pen, and that's the best part of the whole thing. It's hilarious.
That's so fantastic. And we caught up very briefly to say hi before we came on live, and you told me a little bit about when you used to go out shooting with all of the local boys, and you tell the story that all the local girls, and that took you into a little bit of a shooting education sphere as well.
Yeah, so I'm really big on, if you really want to do something that you feel fulfilled by and that you're satisfied by, and there's a big difference between those things and being happy. You can be happy with a bit of money and a nice lifestyle, but if you're not fulfilled or satisfied, it's never going to be a very fulfilling life in the long run. And so way back when I first got out of my whole career, it was really important that I understood what really motivated me and what my why was. So one of the memories I drilled down on was how much satisfaction I got from taking a group of girls who really wanted to go out hunting with their partners, but they were too embarrassed to do it because they'd heard stories about how they'd ridicule girls for being silly and useless. And so I took these girls out, and it's not necessarily teaching them how to shoot and how to gut a pig and all of that stuff. It's actually the stuff that girls typically get picked on for: wearing perfume on a hunt. Big no-no. In fact, just don't even shower before you go on a hunt. Slamming the truck door when you know that the dogs are bailing up a pig, or there's a deer on the ridge and you're excited and you forget that slamming the truck's a big sound. And just taking the girls out and taking them through these things gave them the confidence to then go out with the boys. And in my experience, and again, I'm not a teacher, but men and women learn very differently. When men take men out hunting, it's here's a gun, shoot. Girls will never feel comfortable in that kind of situation. There's got to be a little bit more background, a little bit more instruction. And after I'd taken these girls out, they then went out hunting with the boys and called me and were just so happy. And me passing on confidence to other people, not just females, but me imparting confidence in people is a huge motivator with about why I do these things. It's pretty cool.
So confidence, from what you've said, I think is one of your big whys, but you've also got a triangle, haven't you, that stemmed part of the why behind the whole idea as well.
Yeah. So I'm not, before I started all of this, I'd run other people's businesses, but never my own. And I did want to come up with an idea that would eventually one day make me money. I wasn't so, I wasn't just going to go and be a hippie and just be really, really happy. There had to be some sort of purpose and financial stability to what I was doing. So what I did is I drew a triangle, and at the top in the triangle, there was skill. And then down the bottom, I'm getting it slightly the opposite, and down the bottom there was confidence. And then on the other side, there was love. So skill, confidence, love. And so I started writing all of the things I loved, all of the things that I was confident in, and all of the things I was really skilled in. And, hopefully the byproduct of these 3 things was going to be a sustainable business idea. And it was the combination of looking at all these different areas without trying to draw them together initially. That's what Real Country came up for me. So I'm definitely not financially sustainable yet, and good old hashtag Rona has knocked me back, quite a bit right now. But anything that I've learned and what I'm so grateful for is, being brought up in a rural, farming environment where, farmers have bad seasons, bad years, shitty payouts year after year. And so just because, we've had a good couple of tourism seasons, I've got, money in the bank, I will pivot, I will survive. And that's thanks to my farming upbringing. And we're resilient. We're super resilient. The timing right now is just really crap.
Yeah. And I think, you touch on that resiliency and kind of giving things a go and keeping working at things. And that is something which is so prominent, obviously, in your ethos and your upbringing. But that's something that you very much portray through with everything that you do in your workshops, is even teaching from such a young age as just to give things a go. If you can't work it out, have a try, work around it, a little bit of teamwork, try some different things, get out of your comfort zone, and ultimately build confidence through those things.
Yeah. It's quite heartbreaking working with particularly the young girls. And I talk about girls a lot, but up until now, the workshops, the Southern Girl Finishing Schools have been young girls only, between 11 and 16. And the rationale behind that was, at that age, you can still kind of mold their attitudes and can really influence them. The workshops are now open to a lot of other age groups, but it's girls that I've worked with up until now. And a lot of the girls that do come here have absolutely no confidence. They have really hard family lives, some of them. And, I vividly remember one girl. She was amazing with horses, and I actually got her to help me out with the horse part of it with the other girls, and she was great. And she was changing the tyre, and she was on the end of the socket, and she slipped and hit her head on the tyre. And she just started crying, and I took her aside and I was like, "It's okay. I slipped on it before. You did really well." She's like, I'm so useless. I'm so useless. I'm so sorry." And the thing that gets me is that she's using language that she's heard often, because her go-to wasn't, "I mucked up, I need to go again." Her initial one was saying how useless she was, and it just breaks my heart. So a lot of these girls, after they leave the workshops, they do stay in touch, and it can be quite emotionally exhausting because I've given them a start, and then they take it and they run with it, and I love that. It's not about doing a 180 in their life. It's just about giving them that understanding that just because they haven't done something before doesn't mean they can't. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just whatever works. So, and I say that a lot, it's just work it out. And if you make a mistake, you'll learn from it and apply it the next time. But a lot of the girls don't even have the confidence to give things a go. And it is really heartbreaking. But the positive side of it is the stories I get. One father sent me a photo of his young girl. She's 11, and she was standing beside this huge log. And he said, so Layla went down to the lake, walking the dog, found this massive log, put her lead rope around it, dragged it all the way up to the house. And when he asked her why she'd done that, quote, she said, "Because I want to lift heavy shit like Laura." And she's 11.
That's fantastic.
It was absolutely amazing. We don't do any heavy lifting in the workshops, by the way, but clearly I'd said something at some point, and she's just with it. So
that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So I've asked everybody else that I've been talking to about 3 gratitudes. And as of this week now, we're coming out of lockdown. Those 3 gratitudes, instead of being what you've appreciated in lockdown, are really just from, what are your gratitudes of being in amazing rural New Zealand and the lifestyle that you live? And you've said one is that ability to have resilience just from the way we've been brought up. What would your other 2 be?
So the second one, and it's in a close first place with that resilient farming mentality, is the rural community. So I think we are so lucky that we have, living in these rural communities, everyone supports each other. And even in Kingston, we're only half an hour away from Queenstown, but I would not be where I am right now with the business, with my life, if it wasn't for the amazing support I have from the community around me. And it's overwhelming. You know, if you need something, there's always someone to help out. But you know, you've got to give back as well. I just love that. I absolutely think we're so fortunate in our rural communities with the support that we have. And then the third thing would just have to be the practical, handy skills and the can-do attitude. That whole number 8 why mentality. It's not something that you can just develop overnight. You need to do unfamiliar tasks, complete them, get a bit of confidence, and you build on it from there. But growing up on a farm, you learn that mentality from a very young age, and you don't even realize that you got it. And in the corporate career, totally out of farming, I honestly believe all the promotions that I got and all of the advancement that I went through was just because I would put my hand up and say, I'm not entirely sure what this project's about, but I'll give it a go and I'll probably just smash it. So yeah. Give me that promotion, I'll be right. And that confidence in itself is huge.
Yeah, I think that's I'm giggling away because it's a bit of a family saying at home at my parents, because obviously you can hear I'm quite English, and we definitely don't have that kind of number 8 why mentality and just kind of give things a go quite so much. And it's kind of the saying in the house is like, check you out, Kiwi ingenuity. You just gave it a go, you made it work, because it's just not an English thing. So it's kind of a bit of a comedy phrase in our family when we behave like proper Kiwis, that we've got, you know, number 8 ingenuity. So I'm working on it. Definitely. But
just got to push yourself a little bit each day. For me, I am actually quite terrible at fencing. And so over the weekend, I had a friend of mine who's a handyman on a local station, and he's obviously a fencing extraordinaire. And we went round and tidied up all of my fencing on the farm, and I learned a lot of amazing skills. And so I was out there today just putting up a wire around the strainer posts, straining them up, doing the figure 8 and then the tie off, so when you break the wire it's got a nice smooth end, so if your dog jumps over the wire it doesn't get cut. And I was just so proud of myself. And I definitely am not an expert or a great farmer or a great dog horse person or anything. I just give it a go, and I'm very relatable to people that are learning, which is, at the end of the day, that's all you need.
Yeah, speaking from experience is very powerful, because it's a great way to immediately resonate with people. And we've actually got a couple of comments on the live. So Kane has said that he loves your triangle. It's a great idea, and very cool, keeping it real. So I think that pretty much sums it up of, the business that you've got and the mentality you've got is just keeping it real and getting out there and helping people experience things. So if people want to have a look at Real Country, it's what's your handle on Facebook and your website and all those bits and bobs?
Real Country NZ on both Facebook and Instagram. If you want a behind the scenes look, just follow my stories on Instagram. That's kind of the chaos that goes on, whereas the posts are kind of a little bit thought out, at least. And the website's realcountry.co.nz. But if anyone's interested in any workshops that I'm running, Facebook's the place to go. I create events for all the workshops, and depending on how level 2 goes and how the rest of the year goes, I may even be ending up traveling the country with these workshops. So Facebook's definitely the place to keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Watch this space.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so very much for coming to chat to us tonight. I really appreciate it. And it's an absolutely wicked story. And I think probably very inspiring for a lot of people to help others get in and experience the amazing lifestyle that we are blessed to experience in rural New Zealand. So thank you very much. And yeah, I will pop up all the links for everybody to go to afterwards, and cross fingers for your level 2.
Thank you so much, Laura. I've really enjoyed catching up with you tonight.
Thank you.